Okay, Peter, if you're ready, I'm ready.
Okay.
Okay. No, I think I just wear it.
I don't have a coat, so
Are you okay if I wear a coat?
yeah.
Okay.
I just look
I
sort
know.
of
No, people.
not very formal.
Yeah, it's not formal, but at least it's my show. It's never mind. Great. So the rules are very simple. You just look at the camera for a few seconds after I introduce you. After I introduce you, then I'll just turn my head and you just stop.
So I can just then talk to you.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
have
right.
to look at the camera.
No, you don't have to look at the camera.
Okay.
That's the whole point about the show.
Okay.
So people don't feel intimidated that way.
Okay.
You know, that you're staring at them, but they like it. I don't know why. They just enjoy watching us talking. You know, they seem to learn something from it. You
Okay.
know? That's what Charlie Rose does, I think.
Okay.
And so that's about that. So we'll just look at the camera for a short while. Hi, welcome to the National Critics' Choice Online News, and I'm Robin Stienberg. Welcome to my show again. And today we have a very wonderful guest this morning, and that is none other than Mr. Peter Church himself. And he has published some of his new books, including Added Value, the life stories of Indian business leaders. And of course, he has a few more titles that we're going to share in the weeks to come. Peter Church is a banker. He's also a lawyer and a consultant here in Singapore as well as Southeast Asia. And he's going to tell us some of his highlights and passions and trends that's happening in the marketplace. Peter, welcome to our show again.
Thanks, Rob.
And I know this is the first time that we have met you. And it's amazing, you know, the kind of portfolio that you hold. I mean, how do you manage, these portfolios? I mean, you have your work life and your family. Is there a secret behind it, being a busy lawyer, a banker, consultant?
No, I think the secret is just enjoying what you do. Like you can see you're passionate about what you do. And I think from childhood, my passion has been really Asia for some strange reason. As an Australian growing up in the 50s, Asia was not really very popular, shall I say that. But for me, I just felt drawn to the region. And so I guess I've been able to combine my professional life with my hobby, which is the peoples of Southeast Asia and India. So it makes it very easy to do one's work.
Now, speaking about passion, what's happening with the marketplace here in Southeast Asia, especially in Singapore, as a banker yourself? Let's talk about the banking perspective right now. What kind of sentiment do you see, here in Singapore as well as in Southeast Asia? Are banks moving forward to continue to innovate their services, or are there challenges ahead that's coming up, such as the economic crisis, as well as the currency?
Okay. Well, I'm really not that sort of banker. I'm more a corporate advisor. So the trend that we see there, or I see there, is that traditionally in most of Southeast Asia, they are family-owned and created businesses. And for many years, people didn't want to sell them because selling them looked like loss of face. Why would you possibly want to sell a business? And there was the expectation of most people, the fathers and the mothers that built the businesses, that their children would go into it. Now, what's happened though, these people have been often successful in their businesses. They've educated their children both in their native country and in America or Australia or Europe somewhere. And the children become professionals in some sense and don't want to go into the father's pig farm or the small scrap steel merchant in Surabaya or in Bangkok or wherever it is. So the parents and grandparents who are now going out of business, people my age, are actually forced with the fact that they're going to have to sell their businesses. So what we believe is over the next decade, we're going to find many more businesses for sale in Southeast Asia and India than was the case, say, 20 or 30 years back when there were very few. So for people who are in the corporate advisory field like me, we believe that there's going to be many more sales. Now, of course, you then interpose the fact of the economic crisis, but of course, at the moment in much of Asia, we haven't really felt that as they have in Europe and the US. But if that increases, I guess there's going to be pressure to even make more sales. And one final comment on that, why I think you're going to find more sales for another reason is that for many years, local guys operated in the market by themselves. But with globalisation, now many larger companies are coming in from outside the region. So whereas a small family business competed very easily, suddenly they find they're not just competing with the guy down the street, they're competing with a company from another market which has more technology, deeper pockets and so on. So the reality is that some of these owners have come to the point that they know they should either sell out to those very new people coming in or do some sort of merger or roll-up, as we call it.
Now, this year, the foreign minister, let me correct that, the finance minister this year in Singapore mentioned that as from October this year, they are going to impose tax-free incentives indefinitely for gold and other commodities. Now, because they feel that that gold is money, silver is money, so they felt that they should not impose taxes, the 7% GST on such things because it's money. So how do you see the impact in the markets once these these commodities are released into the market that's tax-free? In other words, you don't have to pay 7% goods and services tax in Singapore.
That is outside my area of expertise and knowledge.
Amazing. No, that's okay. But I think it's an interesting note to know that banks are going to be excited when they sell gold that's tax-free. But Peter, would that benefit you if you were a customer and you're going to buy gold, not having to pay 7% GST?
No.
Why not?
Because I don't buy gold.
You don't believe in one. It's okay. Now let's come to your passion. There's a lot of entrepreneurs around the world, including Singapore, India, and Southeast Asia. What is the role of an entrepreneur today, really? People are trying to define entrepreneurship. So, would you able to elaborate?
Well, I think there are a lot of common characteristics of entrepreneurs all over the world, and a lot of them are obvious, and some are not so obvious. And in fact, a lot of academics have spent years trying to actually, pinpoint, what is an entrepreneur. I actually got into being interested in that area through my interest in the people who have built the businesses. I'm not an expert in entrepreneurism. There are a lot of people who have spent years doing it. My interest has come from living and working in Asia for many years and seeing people, men and women, build companies, and often seeing in the media, just comments about how rich a person is. He's a billionaire or he's a multi-squillionaire, and that never really has interested me. What I was interested in was how did they get there? What was it that drove them? Why are they a squillionaire? Not how many squillions they have. And so I've started over the last 20 years to talk to the people who have become very successful entrepreneurs as to their life stories. Because that's the other thing I think people have to realise. Very few people, their lives go in a straight line up. You telling me earlier about your own life, my life, there are a lot of bumps on the way to where people are at any point in their lives. So I think the thing I learned most is that most of these successful entrepreneurs are not chasing money. Chasing money is not the primary motive. Of course, in many cases, if they come from a disadvantaged background, the first thing they want to do is make enough money to put a roof over their heads and feed their families. But most of these very successful people are doing something they love, something they enjoy, something they've got ability at. But even with all of that, I think the single most important thing is timing. So if you look at many of these successful Southeast Asian and other Asian business people, it's when they started their businesses. So many of the very large businesses we see in Southeast Asia today started either after the Second World War or after the country got independence from a colonial power. So, you can see Gokong Ways in Ayalas in the Philippines, you can see Ika Cipta Wijaya in Indonesia. There's many, many examples. And in India, of course, many of the very large groups came after, or even made their money during the License Raj, where they had licenses to do things. But as soon as the License Raj ended, you see many new businesses that have been created, like, for example, Infosys with Narayana Murthy. If he'd tried to do that 10 years or 15 years before, he would have failed. So I think everybody has to choose the right time. Your National Critics' Choice, is the time for that people are interested in seeing these sort of things online and immediately. Whereas if you went back probably 10, 15 years, there would not be this opportunity. And I think another thing that comes out from all of these people is that they seize opportunities. I think many of us have, all of us have opportunities. If you're an employee in a company, do you take the next promotion, or do you quit and go and start your own business? Or you see an idea, what do you do with it? Now, most of us let these ideas go in one ear and out the other, but these entrepreneurs will often see it, grab it and do something with it. It's not something that just happens from sitting there that you suddenly become a successful entrepreneur. Timing, knowing, grabbing the opportunity, but of course all of the other things, characteristics that you see, hard work and so on, that again, I don't think it'd be the old adage of 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. I think it's true.
So now, folks, for those who do not know, please do try to get his book, Peter Church Added Value, Life Stories of Indian Businesses Leaders in India. But he has also other titles which is made available. And you have a few titles that you have, right?
There's another one where I interviewed 69 people in 10 countries of Southeast Asia, all of the ASEAN countries. So, because what makes a person tick and succeed in Myanmar is very different to, say, what's the situation in Singapore.
Now, speaking about tick, what is the secret behind your success personally? I mean, how did you bring yourself from a full-time lawyer and banker to an author?
This is a hobby. This is a hobby. It's
a hobby.
It's a hobby. Yeah,
Okay.
It's a hobby. I enjoy what I do. In writing is, I think a lot of people should be interested in the stories of people like this. The reason is that if I'm going to do business in India, as an Australian, I could fall for the mistake of sitting opposite. For example, you're Robin Steinberg. Who is Robin Steinberg? You told me a little bit about your life before we started. But an Australian would often sit with Robin Steinberg and go, oh, I know all about your life. You're just like me, you know, you're middle class Jewish, and we know what that means. But when you go to a country like India and you sit opposite a businessman, an owner of a business, is he a Muslim? Is he a Hindu? Is he a Parsi? Is he first generation? Is he second generation? Is it a joint family where the business is run collectively by the eldest male member in the family? These, I believe, are all important things for businessmen to know if they want to do business with people from India or from anywhere. And I think too often foreigners like myself just sit down with the businessman and just figure he's just like me. That could be no further from the truth. And I think you need to do some due diligence on it. So I just felt that by writing or interviewing people about their life stories, it could give others a chance maybe to have a little bit more understanding about some of these business leaders in India and in other countries in Southeast Asia that I've done. So I'm not an author for the view that I'm anything other than an average writer of stories.
Now, how long did it take you to get all the stories, put in your writing, and even have it published?
Well, because I do them all face to face. I don't meet the people, and they're spread out all over India. And as I say, it's a hobby. It took me, in this case, probably 2.5 years to interview the 30 people. And then, of course, the hard work starts of actually writing it. But what I do is send the copy back to the people I've interviewed, not as a journalist. I send it back to them to edit and make sure the story is right, because it would be unfair to, in this case, to be putting something about their life that I've misstated or haven't correctly understood. But doing I've got a new book that I've nearly finished on another 30 business people. What I've now used modern technology. As soon as I finish the interview, I do it on a digital dictaphone. I email the file to a group in India that then types it up for me and gets it back to me within 24 hours.
Wow.
So I then have accurate, complete accurate recording of the whole of the interview, and then I work with that plus other material that they often have on their family to create the chapters that you see in that book.
Amazing. Now, do you see yourself as an entrepreneur?
No.
Why not?
Because I don't think many lawyers or bankers or authors. No, I just see myself as I enjoy what I do. I guess you can say any person in a law firm or in a corporate advisory firm or an author, anyone like that is an entrepreneur in the sense that no one's paying you a salary. You have, you've got to earn fees or revenue before you can pay your expenses. But no, I'm not anywhere like the people in this the books.
Now, what is your lifelong, wish? At the end of all of these work that you do, you gather all these stories, you have them published, and you continue to consult and be an advisor. So what is your one wish that you have?
Maybe I don't think I have an end game. I think it's important. I think work is important. I think retirement is, again, that's something you see for most of these people. There's no such thing as retirement. If you most of them, if they like what they do, they keep doing it. And, the idea of, at 65 or some particular age, you're going to stop. And I think you'll see some of them are serial entrepreneurs, meaning that even if they sold their business out and made an enormous sum of money, they keep, I want to do it again. I want to find another business to build or another idea. And of course, then many want to create something for their children or their families. In my case, I just enjoy what I do, and for as long as I'm healthy and enjoy what I do, I'll keep doing it.
Now, in these coming trends here in Singapore and Southeast Asia, are we going to see more people, well, not just living a longer life, but still working for a very long time? Do you see that the governments are trying to encourage, the individuals to have a long work balanced life or right through their primes?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can't really answer it too much for Singapore, but I'm answering it, say, for Australia. I think the issue is that we are all living, in general, a lot longer. And so I think it's incumbent on people of my age to try and make sure that our children don't have to look after us when we're old. And well, you come from you were a family of 10 children. I mean, where, as you know, in Asia, a lot of the reason you had many children in the agrarian times was to take care of you when you became older and feeble. But in the West now, with nuclear families and the cost of living of say my children who have to bring up their own children and educate them and so on, I think many of my peers in an Australian context want to make sure that we can take care of ourselves should we live to our 80s or 90s, which in many cases is the reality.
So, the next generation that we are going to experience and see, as you said, more and more families are going to be self-reliant, and what advice would you give for aspiring entrepreneurs right now in this day and age, especially if they're in your prime years, right?
Yeah.
Like yourself? Would you give how can Asians, able to learn the lessons from your experience, especially from Australia, on how can they keep themselves busy, active, and not having to worry about their next dollar?
Yeah, I do notice there is definitely, well, there was, many of my, for example, Indonesian friends at 60 think they're much older than I do at 60. Meaning that, I guess one reason could be because their life expectancy is shorter. But I think the other reason is that in the West, a lot of us know we're going to have to work longer. Now, of course, in Asia too, in government service, you have a fixed age at which you have to retire. But we're not really talking about those people. We're talking about entrepreneurs. And I think, you and I were at Singapore Management University recently, and I think a young person asked, should I stay an employee until I'm in my, say, 40s and then become an entrepreneur? And I think my advice was, if you wait till then, it's unlikely you're going to be an entrepreneur. On the other hand, I think most young people in this day and age need to get a good education and spend a few years getting experience in their particular sector before they take the risk to be an entrepreneur. I mean, it's not a zero-sum game. So that if they fail, that they actually can go back to some profession or some expertise that they have. However, the true entrepreneur will not be interested in that. The true entrepreneur will, maybe be having businesses while it's at school. He or she will have business while they're at school. They will not be interested in education. They will take risks. They will do anything. It's just in their genes or in their character. Excuse me. But many of those will fail. So, of course, when you look at the people in my books, they're the successful ones. But probably for every successful one of those, there's probably 1,000 who have done almost the same, but have failed. But I think most of the people that I talk to in Southeast Asia and India all say education is of huge importance to their children. Even if they're rich, they know that their wealth can disappear. Education is something that can at least ensure that the person can earn a living.
Decently. So, do you think education is key to making a decent living, or education is key for the making of a good leader?
I'm not quite sure. I understand exactly what you mean, but I would certainly say, education is not of absolute importance to a pure entrepreneur. Bill Gates, came from a middle class family. Had his secondary education, was at university and dropped out. I mean, many of people in the new business areas, aren't necessarily nuclear scientists. I think too much education can almost remove the entrepreneurism of a person, and they become risk averse, or they get too far down the track in a particular field that it's very difficult for them to then get out of that road that they're travelling down.
Now, tell us, what do you see in the next 5 years for Australia, Southeast Asia, and Asia alone?
Well, there are a lot of smarter people than me that probably have views on that. I think we are all worried in Asia and Australia. If the situation in Europe and America keeps getting worse, the view that Asia is separate and it doesn't matter, I don't think rings true. A lot of the stuff that's made in Asia goes to the developed markets, and as in Australia, of course, a lot of our mining output goes to China and India and other countries, Japan and so on. If those economies come to a grinding halt, then that will certainly have an impact on Australia. So I think it's in the lap of the gods, and I guess we all hope that the Europeans and the Americans will muddle through, and that those of us in Asia will therefore be able to keep heading upwards.
Now, I'd like to ask you another question. Do you have any personal perspective towards the less much mentioned economies like South America and the Middle East? What is your personal perspective?
Unfortunately, I'm not an expert or have very little knowledge on those markets, but perhaps one closer to home I've got views on is Myanmar, because it's, as you well know, in Singapore and a lot of Southeast Asia and Australia, there's a lot of hype, a lot of talk around Myanmar, how it's going to open up now. And I do believe a lot of it is hype, because Myanmar is so far behind every other economy in Southeast Asia or South Asia, and it's going to need very intelligent leadership to solve all of the problems. And I guess, whilst it might be slightly heretical, I believe that the military will need to stay in some sort of control for the next few years as the democracy grows. But if there was democracy tomorrow in Myanmar, I think there could be massive ethnic and other issues to deal with. That said, I believe Myanmar is the last frontier in ASEAN, certainly, and it's minerally rich. It's got 50 million people. It's got people who need education, people who need power, people who need... there are enormous opportunities there. I guess what I'm saying is that it's going to take time, and I think we need to be patient in seeing Myanmar develop.
Well, thank you, Peter Church, for sharing with us here at the National Good Stories about your passion, your books, and please do catch up with us again in the next episode soon after this. And we're going to let you know that Peter Church has this series of books, added value, and do look up to his website if you can. Peter Church, can you share with us your contact information or website or Facebook, which our fans could find you?
Yeah, there's peterchurch.com.au.
There you go. And so please look up for Peter Church and his books. And have a great week ahead. I'm Robin Steinberg here at the National Good Stories.
Thanks, Rob.
This is my, I think it's the morning.
Huh?
It's the morning, I think.
It's what?
The morning.
Right. What is?
It's I'm not used to the morning.
Oh, really?
I like. I think, or maybe it's the